You might want to pay close attention to this because what's happening with U.S. immigration right now isn't a small update, it's a full system shift that could quietly change the outcome of millions of cases. USCIS has just announced 8 major immigration changes coming between 2026 and 2028, and whether you're applying for a green card, going through the H-1B process, or waiting on an I-485 decision, these changes could directly affect your timeline, your eligibility, and even your approval chances. Here's the reality most people won't notice until it's too late. Immigration rules don't change all at once, they change step by step, in ways that slowly reshape the entire process. One update could tighten selection for skilled workers. Another could introduce new screening layers for permanent residency. And another could completely restructure how adjustment of status cases are reviewed. And that means 2 applicants with identical profiles today might have very different outcomes tomorrow. Some people will benefit from faster processing and digital upgrades. Others could face stricter documentation demands, longer waits, and more intense review than ever before. The gap between approved and delayed is about to get wider. So the real question is, are you prepared for a system that's about to play by new rules? In this video, we're breaking down all 8 USCIS changes one by one, what is confirmed, what it means for you, and how it could impact your immigration journey moving forward. If you want to stay ahead of these updates before they hit the system, hit the like button right now so you don't miss what's coming next. So let's break this down in a way that actually makes sense, because when people hear immigration changes, most of them either panic, scroll away, or assume it won't affect them personally. But what's coming between 2026 and 2028 is different in one key way. It's not just one policy change, it's a collection of system-level updates that could quietly reshape how the entire U.S. immigration pipeline works from start to finish. And I want you to understand this clearly from the beginning. Nothing here is about fear. It's about awareness. Because in immigration, the people who succeed are not always the most qualified, they're the most informed at the right time. Now, over the past few years, USCIS has already been moving toward modernization. More digital processing, heavier use of data checks, and increased scrutiny on applications that used to move faster. But what's being discussed for the 2026 to 2028 window takes that direction even further. Think of it like this: the system is not breaking, it's evolving, and whenever a system evolves, the rules for everyone inside it change too. One of the biggest themes in these upcoming shifts is selectivity. The immigration process has already been competitive, but future adjustments are expected to make it even more precision-based. That means applications won't just be judged on eligibility alone, but on how well they fit updated national priorities. And those priorities can shift depending on labor demand, security protocols, and processing capacity. For example, the H-1B system has been under constant review for years, especially around how candidates are selected and how employers use the program. What's being discussed in future reforms is not just about who qualifies, but how those selections are weighted. That could mean a stronger emphasis on higher-skilled applicants, higher wages, or more industry-specific prioritization. In simple terms, not all approved applicants will be treated equally in the future system. Now let's talk about green cards, because this is where most people get emotional, and understandably so. The green card process is already one of the longest and most complex immigration pathways in the world. But future updates are expected to focus heavily on backlog reduction and category restructuring. That sounds good on paper, and in some cases it will be. But restructuring always comes with trade-offs. When categories are rebalanced, some applicants move faster while others get pushed into longer queues. For instance, employment-based applicants in high-demand sectors may see faster processing, while other categories could experience delays as resources are redirected. It's not about removing opportunities, it's about redistributing them. And this is where timing becomes critical. Because even if you qualify today, your outcome can look very different depending on when your case enters the system. A filing submitted 1 year earlier or later could fall under a completely different processing structure. Now I want to shift your attention to something many people overlook: adjustment of status, or the I-485 process. This is the final step for many applicants, and it's often assumed to be the safe zone where everything just gets approved if your documents are correct. But future changes suggest that this stage may actually become more dynamic. What does that mean? It means more layered verification, more cross-checking of background data, Possibly even updated interview protocols depending on case type. The goal behind this is not to make things harder randomly, but to increase accuracy and reduce fraud or inconsistencies. However, in practice, it also means longer review times and less predictability. And unpredictability is something applicants struggle with the most, because it removes the sense of control. When people can estimate timelines, they plan their lives. When timelines become uncertain, even strong applicants start to feel stuck. Now, here's something important I want you to keep in mind while watching this. Not every change will negatively affect everyone. In fact, some applicants will benefit significantly from modernization efforts. Digital processing systems are expected to reduce paperwork delays. Automated tracking systems may help move straightforward cases faster. And certain high-priority categories may see improved efficiency overall. So this is not a one-direction story. It's not everything gets worse or everything gets better. It's a redistribution of speed, priority, and scrutiny across different types of cases. And that brings us to the core truth of everything happening here. The immigration system is becoming more segmented. Instead of treating all applicants in a relatively uniform way, future reforms are expected to categorize cases more precisely based on skills, urgency, and national need. That segmentation is what creates both opportunity and risk at the same time. If you fall into a high-demand category, you may move faster than ever before. But if your case falls into a lower priority bucket under new guidelines, you could experience longer waiting periods even if nothing is wrong with your application. Now let's talk about something that rarely gets discussed but is extremely important: information delay. In immigration systems, changes are often implemented before the general public fully understands them. That means applicants sometimes continue filing under old assumptions while the system has already shifted. And that gap between what people think the rules are and what the system is actually doing is where most confusion happens. So how do you protect yourself in a situation like this? The first step is awareness. Not panic, not rushing applications, but staying updated on policy direction. Because when you know the direction of change, you can prepare your documents, your timing, and your expectations accordingly. The second step is accuracy. A lot of misinformation spreads online during periods of policy transition. People hear partial updates, rumors, or misunderstood announcements, and assume they apply universally. But immigration policy is always detailed, conditional, and category-specific. That's why it's important to always look at changes in context, not isolation. Now I want to bring this back to something practical. If you are currently in any stage of the immigration process, whether it's H-1B filing, green card waiting, or I-485 submission, your focus right now should be on three things: timing awareness, document readiness, and category understanding. Timing awareness means knowing when policy shifts are likely to affect your stage of application. Document readiness means making sure your paperwork is complete, consistent, and up to date so you're not delayed when scrutiny increases. And category understanding means knowing exactly where your case fits in the immigration system so you can anticipate how reforms might impact you specifically. Because the biggest advantage in any changing system is not speed, it's preparation. And I want to be very clear about something before we continue. Immigration systems are not designed to target individuals. They are designed to manage volume, security, and national priorities. But when systems change, individuals always feel the impact differently depending on their situation. That's why some people will describe these changes as opportunities, while others will describe them as obstacles. Both experiences can exist at the same time within the same system. Now, as we move further into this discussion, I want you to imagine the immigration process like a moving road instead of a fixed one. In a fixed road, you simply walk forward and reach your destination. But in a moving road, the speed beneath you changes. Sometimes it carries you forward faster than expected. Sometimes it slows you down even if you are walking at the same pace. That's exactly what policy updates do to immigration systems. They don't change your qualifications, they change the speed and direction of the system you're moving through. So the real question is not just whether you qualify today. The real question is how the system will treat your qualification tomorrow. And that's why understanding these upcoming shifts is so important. Because when you know what's coming, you stop reacting and start preparing. And in immigration, preparation is often the difference between delay and approval, between uncertainty and progress, between waiting and moving forward. Now in the next part of this video, we're going to break down each of the major areas where these changes are expected to have the most impact, what patterns experts are watching closely, and what you can realistically expect if your case is already in progress or just about to begin. But before we get into that, take a second to process everything so far, because once you understand the direction of these changes, you'll start seeing your own immigration journey in a completely different way. And if you're finding this helpful so far, make sure to like this video right now, because it helps others who are also trying to understand these changes before they're effective.